Hey guys, Mike Mackerling with workouttrainer.com and also all the Gym Army members and Gym Army fans of Jim Stoppani. So what I want to do in this video is I just want to address something that a lot of people, I've obviously been following a lot of the different things Jim has been putting up on social media in relation to some of the different products, the educational information, the training. One of the things that sometimes comes up by people who I'm somewhat to think that they're either haters or they just work for some of the other brands and they're trying to poke holes in some of Jim's messaging. And so I just want to address it real quick so that maybe to clear up some confusion and also put to rest any of the people who are out there trying to criticize against some of the different things that he is putting out there as far as his messaging. So recently within the last few weeks what Jim has done is call out some of the companies who are essentially trying to copy him. They're doing a very poor job at doing it, but when he puts out the information about saying what to look out for other products, and things containing like niacin and some other these ingredients, what you got to understand about Jim is, first of all, because the rebuttal that some people, which these haters or these other paid reps for these companies are saying is, well, Jim, isn't this the type of change that you wanted? How can you sit there and try and control? Are you trying to control an industry, or are you trying to help an industry? Well, let me set something straight. Jim actually did a video in which he explained this, but perhaps there were some things that were missed because it was him he was the one who was actually saying it. So a lot of these people probably didn't watch the video or didn't really listen or didn't get it. So I'm going to set the record straight here just on a few things about what he means by what he's saying, real change. Look, Jim certainly is about changing the industry, okay? What he's not about is doing the same things that have drugged the industry down, okay? The industry is a very Me Too industry, which means every single company is always going to do what they think is advantageous for them based on the most popular brands and the most popular products. And so what they'll do is they just create a sub-brand in order to try and run with whatever works for that one company who's doing it successfully. The same things happen with concentrates. Concentrates never existed, but there was a company who started doing concentrates about 5-6 years ago, took off like a rocket ship. So a lot of these other companies just created a sub-brand, and then they had their concentrated line, and then they just kind of rode on the coattails of that rocket ship. Since then, concentrate issue is kind of a dead issue. They don't work. What you got to understand is that the way that Jim educates is that Jim does it based on aha moments. And what I mean by that is to where people go, aha, I get it. So when he talks about things like beware of proprietary blends, all right, that's a way for customers to identify what's currently wrong with some of the products out there. All right. By default, just a company making a non-proprietary blend doesn't make Jim, myself, or anybody else who's educated happy with the fact that all of a sudden, well, Jim, aren't you happy that a company is doing a non-proprietary blend? No, because if they still have proprietary blends in their other products, they're just doing it to where they can line their pocketbooks and say that they have a brand that's a non-proprietary blend. So they'll still sell to the people who don't understand that message, but then they just start to provide a product which is a non-proprietary blend, and the formulas are just not that great either. They're either an abbreviated formula, or there are things that are some version of what they think works because they saw the full disclosed label on a product like pre-Gym or post-Gym or any of the other products that Jim has. That's not doing what's right by the consumer, because first of all, formulation requires a little bit of science, all right? Just like workout programs. Let me give you an analogy. What Jim was saying essentially to the sports nutrition industry and to the consumers out there is stop doing workout programs that just give you the exercises jumbled together and no sets and reps. Okay, that's what a proprietary blend is. It gives you the ingredients on a label but didn't give you the doses of those ingredients. It's no different than somebody giving you an exercise program, listing the exercises, putting them in a group, calling them the system, but then not giving you the individual doses of those ingredients. All right, so he broke that barrier. So now companies are saying, okay, fine, we'll give you the ingredients, we'll give you our sets and reps, but they're incorrect. All right, they're incorrect. The exercises have things like, you know, let's call them like, they'll just put everything in there. So it's a full body workout, and let's put the highest amounts of doses that we can possibly get in there, so just to make it hard. That's not a good workout program. Having a full body workout, having you do 3 sets of 100 reps doesn't make that a good workout program, okay? There's not specific things that are outlined in there that should be done, because the person who designed a workout program like that has no idea what he's doing. Jim's saying the same thing about supplementation. You can't just take a whole bunch of ingredients that you think are hot, things like, you know, niacin and augmentin, and combine them with things like citrulline, and just, you know, throw high doses or low doses or doses that you think are just more effective than something. Look, just like a workout program, supplementation requires a synergy. If you're doing a bicep, you know, workout, why the hell would you want to just put deadlifts in the middle of that workout program and have you do 100 reps of deadlifts? Anybody who would look at a workout program like that would just be like, that person has no idea what they're doing. They just put deadlifts in the middle of my bicep workout. That makes absolutely no sense, unless you actually know what you're talking about. The same thing is said for the supplements. So when people try and, you know, say, well, Jim, aren't you happy that your, you know, companies are following suit? No. He's made that very clear. It's not following suit that he's after. It's about pushing the envelope and doing it the right way, and he said that from the very beginning. Anybody can copy somebody. Anybody can do something that they think is riding on the tidal wave of success from another company. Jim started this company based on doing it the right way. He started educating people in a simple way. Let's start here. When he and I talked about, you know, the messaging of the brand, it was saying, how do we get people to where they can go, ah, I get that, let me find out more. The first way to get it was obviously talking about the scoop size of a pre-workout. That first video that he did where he talked about compare the scoop size to a pre-gym scoop, because a lot of people said in the beginning, oh, I don't want to take a pre-workout with such a big scooper. Man, that's a lot of powder. Think about that statement, and that's a lot of the statements that he got in early on. People complained about how much product he was actually getting or giving the consumer versus a little small scooper. That's just something to where there's a disconnect in the educational process. So by just identifying, saying, listen, let's not talk about what's in the scooper, let's just talk about the size of it. That allows the uneducated person to take interest and say, oh, I got it. That was step 1. Look at the size of your scooper. Step 2. Look at what's in your scooper. Let's talk about what's a proprietary blend. That was the second step of getting people on board. The third step was talking about abbreviated formulas. And then from there, it starts going into the synergies of the individual products. So if you look at the trail of videos that Jim has on Jim Supplement Science, it tells a story of different ways to get people who maybe aren't listening or don't quite understand different ideas and ways to where they can actually grasp the concept. So when you start seeing other companies, all these other companies, they're doing the same thing that the consumers do. They're uneducated. A lot of these guys who own these companies are uneducated. So they're listening to Jim, but they still don't get it. So they had an aha moment themselves saying, oh wow, Jim's talking about non-proprietary blends. Let's go ahead and do that. All right, but then they don't even really get the real science into what goes into those products, what works well with the others. That's a completely, different side, a much more deeper side of the formulation process. So when Jim's talking about real change, what is he talking about? He's talking about innovators, people like he talked about in his video, Anthony Almada. Anthony Almada is one of those guys who basically invented or put to market creatine. He worked with EAS and Bill Phillips in the early 90s. He was the science guy. Anthony is one of the most intelligent, he's a good friend of mine as well, one of the most intelligent and most respected people in the sports nutrition industry. He owns a company called Generate or Vitargo, all right? That's a great product. Anthony has pushed the envelope with creatine. He's all about the science. Those are the types of guys that Jim is after to help prop up the industry. What these other big brands are doing by just trying to copy what he's doing isn't. Other guys like Steve Adderley from Isotory with his BioGrow. That's real. He's He's building his company based on something that he has done and researched himself and said, you know, this works. Jim mentioned MRI. Now, MRI was owned by a gentleman by the name of Ed Bird. There's another guy, Jeff Cobb, who was, these were guys who I actually used to work with when I was at the magazine. They were advertisers of mine. You know, Ed and Jeff started MRI and brought nitric oxide to market. Those are the types of things that Jim's talking about as far as pushing the envelope. It's new ingredients, it's new science being brought to the market to try and push the industry up. If you just have a level of sameness, what do you get? Sameness. If there's only one person trying to do it and everyone else is copying him, trying to make a buck, but then still doing all the other wrong things, that's no different than somebody who's really out to protect and serve and really serves the community and really protects the community, and then others just put on the uniform, try and protect and serve, drive the same police cars going around, and then robbing you that very night. That's a, you know, it's a quagmire. It doesn't make any sense. So when you guys think about what Jim is trying to do, just understand that he's trying to do the right thing the right way, and that's the real change he's looking for. So you're damn right when he's going to get, you know, take offense and upset about companies who are just trying to, you know, ride on the coattails of success based on a model that they think he's actually done. Sorry, there's a fly flying around. But that's the reason why he's passionate about it, because he's a true scientist. And he actually put in the work in the lab years ago. And people say, well, Jim, how are you a sports nutrition expert when your PhD was in exercise science? Well, just so you know, his master's was actually in sports nutrition. So there you go. He did a lot of research in the field of how supplements affect muscle tissue when it's being exercised. So look, as far as somebody who's not just a PhD, because a lot of guys out there just have their PhD, but I challenged, do they actually do any work in it? You know, another guy who I think is a respectable individual is Jacob Wilson. You know, very educated guy. He does some work, but again, Jim did his doctorate at Yale and earned awards at Yale for doing his research. Okay, you don't win the Gatorade Beginning Science Investigator Award for not knowing what you're doing. So when you're talking about somebody who really takes this and lives this and has his own father, who's 71 years old, is a fitness guy and has been in the industry, and he's actually kind of a marquee guy at all the shows. He does the grip strength and all that. So he's rooted in fitness. You want to talk about a generation of an actual family who's rooted in this industry. It's the Stoppani family, and it goes back to where Jim was an early child. So, you know, for those of you trying to say that, well, Jim, you know, don't try and control the industry. You know, how can you be against companies trying to do the right thing? They're not doing the right thing. They're tricking you, trying to make you think that they're doing the right thing, but they're not. They may have a non-proprietary blend, but the formula is a jumbled mess. I think Jim said it best. It's like taking a 40 horsepower motor, putting it into a Ferrari chassis with dually tires, putting the spoiler on the front, the seats facing backwards, and only giving you a gear that goes in reverse. It's a bunch of things that don't make any sense that are thrown into one car to try and make it drive right. That's not the best way to get it. So you can't take things like augmentine and put them in with citrulline malate and then put niacin, a B vitamin, which shouldn't be in a pre-workout, just because the only thing that a company like that is after is your pocketbook, because they want you to feel something. They can't base their entire philosophy on formulation on a product that actually works, because they don't know what they're doing. So what they're going to do is they're just going to put what they think works and then try and have things in there so their customers feel something, so they get the placebo effect. Oh, my skin's tingling. I'm getting a heat sensation. Look, that's no different than a company trying to lie to you about concentrates. And these said companies did the same thing years ago. When concentrates were a hot topic, oh, how can we put a little bit of product in here? Look, if they were after your best interest, and this is what really pisses me off, if those types of companies are literally going to sit around their boardroom and say, how can we market a concentrated product with beta-alanine creatine in a proprietary blend, put it in a 5-scoop thing, we'll market the hell out of these concentrated products, we'll throw a bunch of stimulants in them, product costs maybe $2 to make, and then we'll sell it for $29.99, that's a hell of a margin, all right? It's not the way Gym Supplement Science was started. Gym Supplement Science was started based on how can we make the best product possible for the consumer based off of the recommendations that Jim Stoppani has been writing about for the last 20 years and the last 10 years in Muscle and Fitness magazine. There were literally companies who would call Jim and say, Jim, what are you writing about next issue? Because we're working on a formulator. We want you to meet with our R&D team and talk about the ingredients so we can try and capitalize on that editorial. There were companies who would contact me and say, can we get a reprint of the article Jim Stoppani wrote in his Edge column about beta-alanine. Why? Because that company had beta-alanine as a proprietary blend in their product, but then they could market the fact that, hey, Jim Stoppani said beta-alanine's great, I have beta-alanine in my product, let's go ahead and push that out to all of our advertisements that we're running with you guys, to where it almost looks like, hey, Jim Stoppani says it's good, so it must be good. Well, now the tables have turned a little bit. He's not held with the handcuffs of a publishing and editorial process. He's not held by the handcuffs and the glass ceiling of people paying advertising dollars. And let me tell you, these guys are pissed off. So for those of you out there trying to say, oh, Jim, you're all about change, but now that companies are changing, now you're pissed off, you're damn right. Because he's going to support guys like Anthony Almada, Steve Adelaide, companies who were founded by guys like Ed Bird, such as MRI. I'm sure there's a handful of other companies I'm missing here. There are companies out there who are doing good things, okay? There are some companies who are doing some really great things. I myself, Steve Salmon at Man Sports is a good buddy of mine. That's a guy who is just after doing the right thing. Business is business, and so every company is going to do what's in the best interest of their business, but there are good folks out there. But for you to try and defend the people who've been robbing you by saying, well, they're born again, they're a changed version of themselves. No, they're not, because they're still selling their crap on the street across the corner. So, don't try and come at Jim, you guys, and give him a bunch of crap for being upset and for taking offense to these companies who are simply just trying to flip the script just real quick in one division of their company, to where they're trying to pander and advertise and market to the educated consumers all of a sudden. It's not going to work. And so for the haters out there, you guys continue to hate, but let me tell you something. You guys don't even know the history of Jim Stoppani. So there's going to be some things that we're going to be putting out here in the next couple short weeks. So, those of you who don't really know the background of this guy, the fact that you even step up and think that you can, gain some type of recognition by debating him is laughable to me. He doesn't really, it doesn't bother him. It bothers me because I take it personal, because I have such high respect for him and I actually know who he is and I know his background. And to think that, somebody would actually say some of the things that they say to him in defense of the companies that are out there just scamming people is actually disheartening. So I think that a lot of these folks, these little, newbies to the industry who are just new and, real excited. It's like they go, oh my gosh, this company's reaching out to me to talk crap to Jim Stoppani. Good for you, good for you. Continue your measly little existence. And, eventually the truth will always win. And the truth will always come out. And that's the reason why the Gym Army is so strong. And my other message is to the Gym Army, let's make sure moving forward, guys, that we really take strides to do things in a positive light. Look, there are companies out there. I know as a consumer myself, you guys are upset that you feel that you've been scammed. And so when you see these other companies doing exactly what I just talked about here for the last 19 minutes, you're upset. You want to go out, you want to let them know how angry you are. And that's the funny thing about it, is a lot of these companies who are now getting beat up by the Gym Army, what they don't understand is the Gym Army was in existence before it actually existed. They were actually customers of your own. So my message to the guys out there who get upset when the Gym Army kind of does their social media stuff, hey, these were former customers that you used to have. You're not doing yourself any good and making yourself look good when you're arguing against the same audience who you used to serve. So you just make yourself look like a fool. But in lieu of that, I would still say to the Gym Army, listen, let's make sure that you guys are doing things in a positive light. You're indestructible, you're bulletproof in the sense to where you can stand back and you don't attack, but you just stand for the right thing. You stand based on the education. You don't use foul language, do things that, you know, will incentivize others to just dismiss you because you seem angry. I know you're angry. I know you're in defense of Jim, but let's make sure that the message is always about education, okay? We stick to that, it'll spread like wildfire, which it already has. So anyway, that's my rant for the day. Sorry I took up so much of your time, guys. Hope those of you who watched enjoyed. If those of you clicked out, you know, well, sucks for you. Talk to you guys soon.